coming today for this celebration, and yeah, what a magical day. I just want to acknowledge to begin with that actually we're standing on the occupied territories of the Montaukets. Those people were part of the Pequot Nation, and I think we always have to acknowledge that in what we do. I'm Gail Pellett with Change Hampton, one of the co-founders of Change Hampton, and we have a whole bunch of speakers here. We have Peter Van Scoyoc, who is supervisor of East Hampton Town Board and Government, and we have Fred Thiel, who's the New York Assemblyman here. We have other members of Change Hampton who are going to speak, Stefan Van Dam and Paul Munoz. And we have three students from East Hampton High School, Ava Arquileo, Sadie Kober, and Sky Tansman. And they're going to share a few words with us. I just want to introduce this moment and just say that, you know, some of us like to think of this place as being paradise, and certainly it has many divine aspects, this landscape where we are here on the East End. But as most of you know, there is trouble in paradise. We are not spared the impact of global warming, the climate crisis, the sixth extinction of species that is upon us, and the contamination of air and waters all around us. And like most people everywhere, we tragically have fouled our nest. Change Hampton started as a group of neighbors about a year ago to get together to address this crisis, and especially the catastrophic loss of insects, pollinators, birds, bees, butterflies. And we felt powerless, like many people here, and I'm sure you as well, that we felt powerless to do and make any change on a macro level. So we began to look locally by standing and looking at what was happening in our yards, and began to promote restorative landscaping, the planting of natives, the inviting of pollinators, loving leaves, reducing your lawn size, because we started to focus very closely on that ecological desert and dead zone that turf lawns are. And we encourage the idea that we need to reimagine what beauty is. And this garden that is being planned is hopefully going to be a great experiment and model for that. Native plants can sequester carbon, they can clean toxins in the soil and our water and groundwater, and provide food and pollen for that precious pollinator world that we are losing. But we soon, and this is about a year ago we did this, we lobbied the government of the East Hampton town to create a pollinator, a community pollinator garden here. And we found an incredibly sympathetic and supportive ear in our town supervisor, Peter Van Scoyoc. And so here we are today, and this is a public-private partnership, Change Hampton with East Hampton Town, and we're very happy and pleased and thank them for that. Peter?
Thank you, Gail. It's great to see everyone here on this beautiful autumn day. I don't think we could have had a better day. I just want to take an opportunity to acknowledge my fellow board members, Councilman David Lease. We have Deputy Supervisor Kathy Burke-Gonzalez here. Without their support, this would not be possible today. Today is really kind of a landmark day in some ways in terms of how we think about our town hall campus. Several years ago, just prior to COVID, we talked about doing just this, having a pollinator garden in the front part of the campus so that people approaching town hall for permits or whatever other town business they were doing could see another way of landscaping their properties. As we know, many of the properties that get developed now have extensive lawns that are fertilized. They're covered with herbicides and pesticides because in order to maintain a perfect monolithic lawn, you have to use a lot of chemicals. And so we want to give people an opportunity to see another pathway that will help keep intact our local ecosystem, support our pollinators, our birds and insect species that are so critical to maintaining our environment. I want to also take a moment to acknowledge the Garden Club of East Hampton, which about 8 years ago installed just outside my office in the front corner of the building a beautiful pollinator garden. They maintain that, and it's really a pleasure for some of us to look at, but it also is a very vital food source for many of our pollinators. This summer and in the last 2 years, we've been allowing our lawn here to grow taller, and this past year we stopped cutting it for a period of time, and it was interesting to see what happened when we did that. We had a great crop of dandelions here, beautiful yellow flowers everywhere, and it was fun watching kids come up with their parents and they'd wander off into the lawn to pick the flowers and look at them. And then immediately following that, we had a great crop of clover. We had white clover that spread all through this whole lawn area, and we didn't cut it. We let it grow. It got 6 or 8 inches tall. It flowered, stayed flowering for a good part of the mid part of the summer, and the bees loved that. It was also interesting to see what else showed itself. Seeds dormant in the soil for many years. We had blue asters, a local wildflower, come up. We had New York asters. We had some flowers that I haven't identified yet. I'm still trying to track them down. We had some thistles, thistle plants that I think probably haven't expressed themselves here on this property since it was a cow pasture. But those are also providing forage for pollinators and birds. So this will be a great opportunity for people coming to Town Hall to see other ways that they can landscape their property, which can be beautiful and still beneficial and sensitive to our local ecosystems. At this point, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our State Assemblyman, Fred Thiel.
Good afternoon, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate having the invitation to participate in what I see as a celebration here today. And my thanks, first of all, to Change Hamptons, who have spearheaded this and really are the reason why all of this happened. It wouldn't have happened without you. And then your partners, the Town of East Hampton. From my days as a planning board attorney in the Town of East Hampton, which goes back quite a while ago now, East Hampton Town has always been the leader on the East End when it comes to environmental protection. This is just another example of that today, and I want to thank Supervisor Van Scoyac and the members of the town board. From my perspective, from the state legislature, we're dealing with these issues on a more global policy issue point of view. We've passed our Climate Act. We've set standards that we have to meet for to deal with climate change. We put a bond act on the ballot this November that you'll have the opportunity to vote for. You have to flip the ballot over to vote on the bond act, so don't forget to do that. Not that the front of the ballot isn't important. I think it's really important too. But so with the issues with regard to pollinators, another big environmental issue, we've been pursuing the Birds and Bees Protection Act, which deals with trying to protect our pollinators, particularly from the problems that are caused by pesticides and insecticides. We had a Cornell University study that really was the basis of this legislation. And this year it passed the State Assembly. It just didn't quite get across the finish line in the State Senate. So we'll be back at that next year. And I have my own piece of legislation in addition, protecting bee colonies, and that they should be moved, not destroyed when this situation arises. I mentioned the state legislation because it's important that we pass that. That's part of a larger picture of protecting our pollinators. And we didn't quite get there this year. It didn't quite pass. And that's why I want to point out why projects such as this one are so important. To get legislation passed, if the public leads, the leaders will follow oftentimes. And with this pollinator garden isn't just doing the good that it does all by itself, but it increases public awareness. The public's going to come to town hall, they're going to see the garden, they're going to ask what it's about, they're going to learn more about it, and then that will end up being another supporter for these important bills that we need to do in Albany. So even in the most subtle way, we're going to enjoy this garden simply because it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be promoting our ecology. But, I use this quote all the time. Stuart Vorpal, who was a commercial fisherman here, somebody came up to a hearing and said things shouldn't, this shouldn't be political. And Stuart came up to the podium and said that politics is everything but very deep sleep. And there's even politics in the pollinator garden, because the awareness that you're going to create, the public support that you're going to create, is going to help us pass the needed legislation that we need in Albany, that hopefully will be a major step towards protecting our pollinators, which are so important to our ecology. So thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate. And who's next? Okay.
Thanks very much. Hi everybody, I'll keep this short because it's getting a little cool. In any event, my name is Stefan Van Dam. I'm a co-founder of Change Hampton, and we're happy to have you here. And we're here not only to inaugurate the first community pollinator garden in front of Town Hall, but also to launch an educational campaign to inspire folks to want to understand better how the local ecology truly works, and what we as individuals can do to restore and to protect our native habitat right now. We aim to pollinate the idea that together we can make a difference for the future of our planet working locally here in East Hampton. Given the mess we're leaving the next generation, and we'll hear from them in a little bit, so hang in there, we have an obligation to reimagining our landscape practices and to transition from mow and blow, fertilizers, pesticides, and invasive species to create an environment free of toxins. Personal health and the health of our surroundings are intrinsically linked. We can't be healthy in a sick environment. Whatever we put on our lawns ends up in our aquifer, where we get all our drinking water from. This begs two questions. Do we really want to drink our lawns? And what does it mean to live in paradise if you can't drink the water? We're not advocating for the end of lawn culture, and the plan that we will unveil will show this, but an end to poisoning ourselves, to maintaining it. Because of the erroneous notion that green lawns are beneficial when they guzzle water to the tune of 8.5 trillion gallons a day. This is water we don't have, and we should use more effectively. Every time it rains, our local roads become conveyor belts transporting toxic fertilizers from lawn runoff into our bays, beaches, and harbors, undermining the health of our community. Luckily, there is hope, and local solutions which start in our own yards. Things we can do right now. So let's do the right thing by choosing natives and create abundant and resilient beauty in the process. Our community pollinator garden is meant as a model to show how we can transform our thinking about nature and act on it, and a place for exchange of ideas where folks can meet around here to talk about these issues. Let's harness the imagination of our local youngsters to envision a new model of natural beauty, community health, and economic value. What we will be learning here is to encourage and invite pollinators vital to our own survival. Thank you.
Will you introduce yourselves or you want me to introduce you?
I can introduce us.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Sky Tansman, and this is Ava Arcaleo and Sadie Kober, and we are here on behalf of the East Hampton High School Environmental Awareness Club, and quite frankly, the entire student body. We are thrilled to see this pollinator garden come into fruition, as within a growing industrial world, supporting natural processes is becoming more and more important. And as future activists of our planet, us youth are incentivized to take action. So I'd like to thank you all for encouraging our participation.
Hey guys. Watching our fellow community members initiate this entire process and the planning and all of just what takes to construct this incredible project has been really inspiring for us as just high schoolers, and has taught us that advancements can be made to our community if you pursue it with enough fervor, which is really, really cool. And as a lot of people have said before, we really hope that the garden's public location triggers a wave of environmental awareness in our community as people come and go to Town Hall, and that members of our community are really inspired to make their own pollinator gardens, even if it's just in their backyard, which is really, really
So to reiterate, the implementation of this pollinator garden shows our community's true passion for nurturing our environment, and especially with Hurricane Ian wiping out hundreds of thousands of bee colonies, it is of utmost importance that we take action to increase pollination, especially in our community. And I just want to say on behalf of the students involved in the Environmental Awareness Club that we will admire this garden for years to come, and know that we are included in something really fundamental for our town's environmental prosperity. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody.
You can try to talk right into
No,
it.
it's okay.
I know it doesn't seem to be working.
So I'm Paul Munoz, and I'm the chair of the Energy and Sustainability Committee for the Town of East Hampton. And I'm also the founder and owner of Eco Harmony Inc., an eco-friendly landscaping company here in the town. And I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for being here to support such a wonderful project. And a big thank you to the East Hampton Town Board members for approving this public-private partnership. As was mentioned earlier, this will be a community garden that includes our local landscapers, who will have the opportunity to feel inspired, learn, and look to the future as we help reimagine what landscapes could look like here on the East End. One small example of that will be leaving the leaves this fall and winter, and thus minimizing and even eliminating the use of blowers, both gas and electric. This and other practices will be highlighted and shared as we move forward with the project. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you at our first work event, which will be November 5th, and we'll have a lot of volunteers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we want to look at the rendering and the plan and introduce our garden designers. This is Abby Wallace, and this is her plan. And this is where's April
conceived of as messy or unfamiliar. So the thought behind this design was that we create kind of a familiar format. It's almost like a college campus kind of formal layout, whereupon we can kind of bring in all these amazing vital plants, the pollinators, and also provide a gathering space beyond here, a lunch spot, and again, educational opportunities. This whole back end will be a bit more kind of wild, and what you can do more with grasses. We'll kind of keep the super beautiful right up front so everyone can enjoy. That's the sum of it. And the whole idea is that we're going to have blooms throughout the growing season, and then there will be a rest. And the rest is also an important part of the garden and a key component to changing our landscape maintenance methods. So here's April's beautiful perspective. So we're looking for some oak trees, if anyone knows of any. I have some. All right. But we really need a bit of shade, as Peter pointed out. So there's going to be, right behind you is an orange flag. That's going to be a shade tree, and with all that southern sun hitting that area will be a really great spot, hopefully for lunch and a chat. So this is, yeah.
Look at the colors that we're going to introduce here to attract the pollinators. And as the plan here shows, this is still being developed to be more defined, whether there'll be benches and how the seating arrangement will work. Should there be a big chess game where we can meet with the supervisor and the assembly person to create an inventor space. And look at the incredible array of colors and the music that emanates from them, from this design. So we're very enthusiastic, and thank you guys for this vision and to articulate that vision for us.
And thank you to so many of the people that are here who wrote support letters for us early on, including the Assemblyman Fred Field wrote a letter back in March for this garden.
And
So
we appreciated all your letters,
Yes.
but you weren't going to change our mind.
And I think Kate Rogers is here, was also our liaison with the Energy and Sustainability Committee with the board, and was very helpful in that process. And we have Julie is here from the East Hampton Garden Club that did the first little pollinator garden.
Beverly's part.
Uh-huh.
Beverly's a pollinator educator.
Oh, okay. So Beverly, so thank you for coming, because we hope with this we're creating a pollinator pathway, and that people will continue to grow gardens everywhere they work and play. Good. So any questions? How are we going to deal with the deer?
That was my question.
Yeah. Well, Abby will have some great thoughts about that.
I've designed a lot of plantings in deer country, so mainly you focus on mints and things like agastache and things like that. But this won't be perfect. They seem to have ranging tastes, and we're gonna do what we can. We might have to do a little deer spray, but we think it's important to give it. Most of what I have here I'm pretty positive about, but the deer always surprise.
Yeah. They change their diet.
So yeah, so
We have to be flexible in terms of how this is going to be shaped. And some things may work, others may not. So we'll reinvent in the process.
right. And there will be kind of a sub-layer of grasses which keeps it full and lush, and then the flowers emerging. But we want to make sure no empty spots, because the other big question is care, because gardens take a lot of care, and we're working on that.
Yeah.
But it looks like we've got a great start.
Yes, we should talk more about the Saturday, November 5th. From 10 to 2 roughly, we are going to have volunteers coming. We have students coming from, I believe, the
the elementary school, the middle school, the high school of East Hampton, from the Ross School. We'll have other volunteers coming. We are going to be doing something, and Paul should really be the person, or Abby, to explain this, but we're going to be suppressing the weeds and the grasses where we don't, the lawn where we don't want it for the winter, by using something that Karen DeFranzo, a local high school teacher, calls the lasagna method. We put down layers of cardboard, and then we put a foot of earth and mulched leaves and things on top. Am I doing this
Yes,
right?
and
You
we
do it.
will, our local schools are actually collecting a lot of cardboard as we speak, and we'll have truckloads of it on Saturday, and the students will help us put down the cardboard, wet it, and then put leaves and compost on top. So in the springtime, we'll plant directly into that.
So if you have other lasagna recipes you want to share, please do not hold back.
So we welcome and invite all of you to come for that moment on Saturday, November the 5th, to, get our hands dirty for the first time in this garden. So we would love to join us. There'll be lots of things to do. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Where's Kate? Where's Kate? Kate. April. Yes, April. You're in here. Yes. Got everyone. Do we look convincing as gardeners?